flat rate packaging and postage rates, which takes the guesswork out of shipping while saving you time and money. So quit wasting valuable time and money. Call or text Just Ship at 352-234-3840. That's 352-234-3840. Just Shipped.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to Ocala Talks. It's hour number 2. And if it's Friday, that means it's time for your early learning coalition from Grant County. Good morning. You know, I have a disability or you. Depending on how you look at it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. As you brought forth the panel, Joy Sedler, Pearl Project, family,
Veterans Helping Veterans USA. Call 352-433-2320. We help veterans and their families with limited financial assistance, counseling, employment referrals, and a food and clothing bank. You can help in making a huge difference in the veterans' lives we serve by donating food, clothing, household items, or direct financial assistance. All donations are tax deductible. Veterans Helping Veterans USA. 352-433-2320. Thank you for your attention, and God bless America.
On June 15th at 8:30 a.m., Dr. Hal McSwain of First Congregational United Church of Christ and Rabbi Z.F. Harari of
So we provide support to caregivers who are caring for children, often foster or adoptive kids, because we know that the trauma they've experienced has impacted their brains in a way that makes it harder for them to sometimes regulate. They have sensory issues, and so it can come out as hard behaviors, but really it's coming from a
when
place of trauma.
You bring up foster children that have been put in the system, they may not have a physical trauma. They may not have where somebody is abusing them or anything. I know a guy personally whose mom 3 different times, when I was 11, when I was 13, and when I was 15, took me to Jesse Street, which was the juvenile center in Jacksonville, Florida, opened the door, literally brought me in and said, "He's yours, I can't deal with him," and left me as a ward of the state 3 different times. I'm 54 years old. I still go to counseling now because of the abandonment issues and the issues I have internally from her leaving me as a child at the state juvenile center. When I didn't do anything wrong, I just was being a kid, and she was fed up with me being a kid, so she gave me up 3 different times. That's traumatic, and that's the kind of trauma you're talking about.
Yes, definitely. Relational trauma.
Yeah, you know, I lived it. Believe me. So, Thomas, what are some of the things that you see and that y'all offer for people with unique abilities?
So we offer, low staffing ratios where we are able to customize, the treatment plans for our patients, where, we individualize each, patient, and they receive occupational, speech, and physical therapy. We also work with the local school boards to provide education with the school board teachers as well as a teacher from our facility.
I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with a guy that was an integral part of this radio station and a radio show I did in the afternoons called The Voice of Ocala. But Hunter Turner, who is 29 now, I think, 28, 29 years old, he has cerebral palsy. He has a back that is so broken that even I think the plates and screws and rods in his back are broken. He's wheelchair bound. He only has use of one arm. He's verbal. He's very, he's about to get his doctorate, actually. He's very good. He was an intern here for a long time. And he got an opportunity one time to go with a company. And he goes, I think they're giving me this opportunity because I'm in a wheelchair and I have cerebral palsy. I go, that's exactly why they're giving you the opportunity. He goes, I don't know how I feel about that. I said, you should take their check to the bank and cash it every time they give you one. Because you have a unique ability, and if he was great. He's a great interviewer. He had an in with a lot of the guys on the golf tour. I mean, this is a guy who Tiger Woods invited personally to his grand opening of his restaurant down in South Florida. Nice. One time I had a interview that we were doing with Justin Rose, who's a big time golfer, and Hunter was supposed to be there with me. He set it up. I go, where's Hunter? I'm looking around. Hunter goes, I'm texting, where you at? He goes, look below you. And I said, it's at Arnold Palmer's tournament. I look down. He's sitting at the table with Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, and Arnold Palmer's wife having lunch. He's like, I don't think I can make the interview. But this is a guy who he took his disability, turned it into a unique ability, and he did it because he had a support staff. He had a mother and a father and a stepfather and a family as a huge support staff, and the financial abilities to deal with his disability. And now he's fixing to get his doctorate degree. And one time I asked him, I go, Hunter, don't you get angry that you're in this wheelchair? And all he goes, Tom, they told me I was supposed to be dead by 12. What do I care? But he had the support system that he could succeed. And I'm taking nothing away from him. He's still a hard life and he had to fight. But he had two parents and a step parent and financial ability to succeed even with his unique ability. Y'all don't see that very often.
Well, I think what you're talking about is something that it's a perfect segue into inclusion. So one of the things that we try to teach for early childhood education with our child care providers is inclusion in the classroom. So it doesn't matter what ability, unique ability, disability that a child has, but giving them the opportunity to grow and shine and be respected and valued and be a part of the classroom. So while there are lots of things that might hinder a family, such as the financial piece, that's something that all of our agencies look at. That's something that we all try to support, because that's hard. If you have a unique ability or disability, that's hard then, but it's hard if you don't. Right now, especially too. So it's really just looking at the big picture of the needs and using, just like the example you gave with Hunter, they saw past his physical being, and they saw what he had to offer and bring
he
to
was
the
a capable
table.
Interviewer.
Yes, and I've known very many people that also live with cerebral palsy, and I look at that and I think they don't know anything any different. So that's their superpower, is to take that and shine.
One of the funniest ladies you'll ever hear has cerebral palsy. She's a comedian. Her name, it was right there, and now with the ADHD, it's gone. But
it'll come
she
back.
was from the 80s and early 90s, and she had cerebral palsy, and she did stand up and hilarious. Mm-hmm. Let's talk for a minute about what it's like if you are a parent who has a child with a unique ability or disability, but you also have other children too that you're having to navigate through. What are some of the ways y'all help in that situation?
You want to take that one, Thomas?
Sure. We have the ability where we are a medical facility in like a daycare setting, and we pick the children up from the home in the morning and then bring them home in the afternoon. We're able to give the family a chance to live outside of their child with special needs. At that point, they can go back to school, they can work, and we take care of their child just like they would and give them all these services while they're with us. And, in a lot of instances, our goal is to transition them to a normal school, or, to graduate them from us with all the tools for them to succeed, and have a prosperous life.
Joy, is the goal here to get the student with a unique ability or disability into the mainstream as seamlessly and easy as possible for everybody involved?
From my perspective, with working with kids with trauma, it's I think that what works for kids who've had trauma works for all kids. So we train teachers, we train in these approaches, but we're use it with every kid. You don't sit there and pinpoint, which kid might have trauma. You just treat all kids this way. So, but that's my perspective, because it's a little different than other disabilities where where they're more obvious. So, but yeah, I mean, we want to give.
You don't want them
kids what they
treated any
need.
different.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't want to say, hey, you've had a trauma in your life. I know that. So we're going to be a little easier. You don't want that. You want them to be treated like a child. A normal, everyday child. You don't want to bring out, because by the way, if you bring out those kind of things, kids, through no fault of their own, can be vicious at times. I mean, they see how their parents act and everything. It's a learned behavior. But kids, and if you point out a kid has an issue, other kids will key in on that and really use that in an adversarial way. And we don't want that.
And it kind of becomes a fight or flight situation sometimes. And talking back about the siblings that don't have a different ability or a unique need, finding that balance between not focusing all your time on the child that has the different need, and balancing between all the siblings. And I think that's one of the benefits of the services Thomas offers, and then with Joy and the Pearl Project, and then the coalition, we all have resources, like we have Help Me Grow, that can help find other ways to help a family balance all those needs and pay the bills and participate in Boy Scouts and baseball, and allow those opportunities for the families to be a family and not just focus on those.
I find that my friends that I grew up with that had disabilities or unique abilities, that had siblings, that their siblings were really their caretakers and in their corner, and could really get hot quick if you messed with their brother or sister that had a disability. I vividly remember in the hallway of high school one time, a kid who was autistic. We didn't know that that's what it was called then. We always said he was special. We as kids didn't know. Early 80s, late 70s, autism was still something that was a backroom word. You didn't know what it was. And so now I know that this kid was autistic, but his brother, if his brother thought you said even the slightest thing out of sorts to him, and by the way, they were twins, and they were both made me look small, even though one of them had autism, one of them didn't. You said anything that the other brother, who was, by the way, the oldest brother by a minute and a half, and I kind of think there was some guilt there that he thought he was normal, and his brother, I think there was some guilt there, and that's a whole different trauma, Joy. But if you got even it a little out of the sorts with him with his brother, Katie barred the door. So do y'all find that siblings, a lot of times, they're the support system, and they have their brother and sister's backs?
Yes, I've seen that, and it's harder within the walls of the home. It's not necessarily that way, but with other people.
Right.
That's kind of what I've seen. And we, one of the things we've done with the Pearl Project is offer support groups for siblings. So we have support groups for adults, but we want siblings to know that they can be, they're not alone either in this. And so that's something we've offered.
Thomas, do you find when you're dealing with that siblings got the back so that their siblings with disabilities?
We see it all the time where the siblings are very protective of their, of their other sibling, and they truly care for them. And sometimes, depending on the family dynamics, some of the young children are doing a lot of care for these children.
How does the Early Learning Coalition, give us some of the ways the ELC, through programs like this, but also through what y'all do, help families that maybe don't, we don't need help. We got this. But most of the time you really don't got this. How do you help them recognize you don't got it the way you think you got it?
Well, and sometimes it comes out in a different way. In the Early Learning Coalition, our programs are sponsored by the Office of Early Learning, and we offer the same services regardless of whether a family has a disability or not. But if we have a family, and a lot of times it's working through the teachers. So we try to provide the teachers with training so that they can recognize, or if they just keep seeing the same child jumping off of the book stand every single day, and they're like, why is he doing this? We try to go in and provide resources to the teachers. And then we have another program, Help Me Grow, which will be on another show later this month, that helps come up with connect families with the resources that will help them outside the classroom. So we kind of try to do a dual approach where we're helping teachers in the classroom with helping give them tools to engage that child better, and get what they're looking for out of them. So it's just support. It's a lot of support. And then outside the classroom, the families can find resources to kind of help, just like Joy and Thomas, where we can help them figure out how to make this work for them.
We talk about early learning on this program. Early Learning Coalition is the reason we're here. So early learning is from infancy up until probably middle school would be early learning.
We go up to 13.
13. But I know this is a big problem, and at age 13, somebody else steps in and takes. But aging out is a big problem too, and people don't understand what aging out is. That means once you reach a certain age, the way the state looks at it, help dries up. Mm-hmm. Is there programs y'all work with that transition from 13-year-olds into the early adults and all that help with the transition, so that aging out of your program into the next program isn't a trip? Because sometimes kids with disabilities or kids with trauma, change can be just as bad as their disability or the trauma. So is there bridges that bridge that transition?
There's a little bit, and I think we all have some resources that go into that, but a lot of it is supporting that family to create a plan. It's a life plan. Who are your supports? Who are you going to go to if you are incapacitated? We have things like ARC here in Marion County and the Center for Independent Living and other places that can help with the caregivers and the siblings too, and other people to kind of create that plan for care, and what is the next step, what is the goal, and what is this individual capable of. And sometimes we try to encourage them not to hinder the growth of whoever the individual is, and to really see what are they capable of. Can they live on their own? Things like that. So the transition plans, that can be hard. And it can
be really hard.
Yeah, it can be, and trying to get other people to commit to helping create that. But we do have some resources in the community, I think, that are still viable that can step in.
Joy, do you see that's a difficult time and one that needs to be addressed? The going from like adolescence into early adulthood and everything, and how, like with the Early Learning Coalition, they would age out of the Early Learning Coalition. They'd have to go up. Change is not a good thing. If you've been people with trauma, change is not good.
Right. Yeah. Transitions are hard, whether they're daily or life transitions. They're very hard. And so what we do is we offer support to the families to help them manage the transitions and be proactive and not just reacting to the circumstances, but making a plan. And so, yeah.
Thomas, do you deal with that problem of transition?
Ours comes a little later. They age out from us at 21, but at that point, it's can be very difficult to find services that will match or be something similar to us.
And somebody that's 21 years old, their parents are at least in their 40s or late 30s, early 40s, and sometimes there's not parents there, and it's grandparents that are doing it. Sure. They're in their 60s and 70s. This is a person who 10 years down the road, if there's not a sibling or something like that, and they don't have a life plan, they could just be left. And then that's how we end up with people with traumatic situations or disabilities that end up at places like Interfaith that Carla Grimsley runs and everything. Mm-hmm. And that happens. People think, that happens every day. That's why the life plan's so important. But we need to start early.
Absolutely.
We typically start, a year and a half before they're going to age out of us to try to get a transition plan in place.
But if you start early with family, mm-hmm. A 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and start that life plan then, do you go that far in advance with some of the life plans and the transitions?
Well, I think it's definitely worth looking into, because the more you're familiar with the plan and the more you can kind of practice it out or vision it, it's also calming. I personally, I like to know what I'm going to do the rest of the day. If I can plan it out, then I feel better. I feel more organized and I can make better decisions. I don't have to make decisions on the fly that causes stress. And it's the stress factor on it. So starting even younger than that, like as soon as there is a difference in how a child is behaving, the earlier we can get involved from the preschool age all the way through and school is vital in that.
And it makes it easier for the child over the long run because they're used to it. They're used. It's almost like I know there's something different about me, but nobody's letting that hold me back, including myself. And that's what the plan helps do. Yep. Is it creates a plan that will not hold somebody back because of their disability.
Right.
And then you're giving them the tools at that time to either overcome or learn how to deal with their abilities.
Yeah.
Are a lot of the traumas you see, Joy, are they inter-household traumas, or can they be, bullying from schools? Is there? Can you paint it with one brush, or is it just a myriad of colors?
It can be so many things, big T's, little T's, and it really, the same kids can go through the same situation, and the way it impacts you is what really makes it traumatic. Some people are more impacted by the same circumstance than another child, but yeah, we mostly, most of the trauma, the kids we work with have experienced relational trauma between a family member, and so they've been removed from their home, so that goes really deep. And sometimes being removed from your home doesn't mean that you had any choice. It's because the police came in and removed the caregiver, or there's a situation that the children had to. Because look, I'm not going to fault anybody for how they put food on their table to feed their children, but some people do things that aren't socially and lawfully accepted by society to put food on their table. I'm not making a judgment either way, but that does put your children at risk when you make those decisions. And sometimes those decisions are made because that's the only way you see fit. That's another thing the Early Learning Coalition can help you with, to come up with different patterns of things to do before you get to the point where you make decisions that may end in your arrest and your children taken from you.
Well, we hope to be that support for a family, regardless of whether they have a child with a different need or whatever they're going through. And if we will do the research we can to try to put families in the best light that they can possibly be in. So if a family wants to connect with us, they can go to our website at www.elc-marion.org. They can call us at 352-369-2315. They can find us on Facebook. Joy, how can they find you?
My email is joy@thepearlproject.org. Our website is thepearlproject.org, and we have presence on Facebook and Instagram where you can see we have a training starting this Saturday. So, yeah.
Thomas?
You can find us at tcms.care. We have 5 centers in the state of Florida right now, and also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and our newly found TikTok. We have 10,000 followers on TikTok.
I'm one. I love it.
Okay. How many dances has Thomas done on TikTok?
2, I think. Yeah, 2.
Maybe 2.
We need more. We need more. More.
People don't want to see me. They want to see the kids.
See, did you see how he got right out of that? That's a professional right there, folks. That's a professional right there. But, but kids understand TikTok.
They do.
So that's another tool you can use to bridge the gap. Because a lot of times it's all about making the kids understand, yes, we're adults, but we understand what you're going through. And sometimes they think, now you break out TikTok, oh, he's one of us.
It's a connection, absolutely.
It really is a connection.
Kids love it.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate all your insights. Appreciate all you do for our community and the people of our community. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday.
Coming up next, Susan Kieran from Just Shipped. She'll be in the building. If you hadn't heard about justshipped.net, you're missing out. So she'll be in the building next. You're listening to Ocala Talks, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. This is WOCA. The Source.
broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport. This is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. From Washington, leading U.S. ag groups have called on the Bipartisan Working Group and congressional leaders to come together on a bipartisan infrastructure package that they call vital to American farmers and their continued domestic and international market access.
Up over 7%.
The letter comes as a negotiation among the bipartisan group of senators accelerated, and the congressional leaders weigh the path forward
the
for the
Union
infrastructure
investment.
investments.
Calls by the United